responded saying he didn't care since he had no contact with any of his family besides his parents. So Keem would get biased information from people only interested in the money. During one of his periodic lamentations, Phil mentions having developed severe trust issues and having an inability to have friends, but he blames trolls for this instead of blaming himself.
It's hard for me to trust anyone. You wanna know why? Because so many people have kind of screwed me over time. People who swear to me, don't worry, we're in it for the best of intentions, and we're here to do this or that, and then what happens, right? And it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, fool me 77 times, right?
On June 24th, 2023, DSP celebrated his 15th anniversary of being a content creator on YouTube. 15 years, 64,000 videos on the DSP gaming channel alone, countless hours of live streaming, half a lifetime's worth of subpar content. It's hard to even believe it got to this point. Unlike other lolcows who have one or two gigantic character flaws that are like genuinely just making them unfit for society in general, DSP is kind of a different beast. He has no particularly grievous offense towards other people. Instead, he has an unending series of small offenses he has no interest in taking accountability for. He's not extraordinary whatsoever, and that's precisely the appeal. Disliking him isn't a race, it's a fucking marathon. His detractors will willingly sit through his content slop just to bask in how underwhelming it is. Every little self-serving lie, every e-bag, every insult to the audience, it adds up to the phenomenon known as pignosis, the inability to fully stop following what Phil is up to. DSP is like McDonald's, where you know you're getting a bland, kind of soggy experience, but every once in a while you just find yourself coming back, okay? He's a low-skill, menial job worker who stumbled into being a professional content creator and got addicted to it, and no matter how much negative attention or debt his attachment to his online personality incurs him, he keeps on going. Phil is not destined to be an online personality. He doesn't have the talent, he doesn't put in the effort, he has no skills, and yet every single day he's struggling against fate itself by not giving up. He's a Let's Player who's bad at games. It took 3 years after it was already the norm for him to start doing direct capture, and has never hired an editor in his life. He doesn't behave responsibly in the face of negative consequences, or his inability to manage his professional life whatsoever. He defaulted on over $100,000 worth of debt that he took out on credit cards so that he could pay his taxes, even though he knew his taxes were just going to continue to accrue, and he truly has no hope of paying them. But he simply does not stop. DSP is like Albert Camus's The Myth of Sisyphus. He doesn't have what it takes to perform his tasks, but he's going to continue trying regardless. The struggle itself toward being a content creator is enough to fill his heart for the time being. One must imagine that Phil is happy, or at least he thinks he's where he's supposed to be.
It was good, yeah. Yep.
The asteroid is depleted.
This is a video from 6 hours ago from Some Ordinary Gamers. I've liked to sub to your stream. Thank you for the excellent content for my channel. The following video contains services that may be illegal in your residence. We do not endorse any actions you perform on the dark web. We also don't condone any views expressed on the deep web or any site depicted on this video. We also do not condone any harassment to anyone depicted in this video. Oops, gotta...
Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Web Browsing. Weird things on the deep web. Really don't know what it's called, but obviously for those of you who didn't know, I had to tone back the old deep web stuff because frankly looking at a Hitman site every week really took the luster out of it. But of course, coming across most websites nowadays, most linked lists, just putting on some of the most illegal material, has made coming up with some rather fun, cool content on the deep web require a bit more time. So I actually do want to do these more actively. I think maybe, and this is just my opinion, I think maybe doing this like 2 times a month, you know, on the weekends or the weekdays may actually be more logical. There's a lot of cool stuff still out there that still pops up, but obviously, you know, when you've blown your load week after week, sometimes it's better to let that quality fester. I just want to know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. I I'd love to do more deep web. I love to do more deep dives, but obviously spacing them in amongst the regular array of content might be the smarter choice. That said, though, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our very first website. Now, this one is Introduction. So June 6, 2023. This is Apocalypse Prepping. Now, one of the things that I like about the dark web stuff is there's always a website that you think would probably exist in like the clear web, but there's somebody who's producing this website that thinks, goddamn, I don't want the man figuring out what I'm doing, so I'm going to put this on Tor. Now, June 6, 2023, the imminent novel threat of artificial general intelligence has increased the urgency to prep by at least an order of magnitude. It has been made past considerations by preppers in many ways obsolete. While as of 2022, the AGI topic has gained some traction in the public sphere with ChatGPT, opinions as to how it will unfold vary widely, and are often driven by first-guess fallacies, judging by the past and now the future, ignorance of exponential growth, herd mentality, blind faith in media and institutions. While it's true that positive outcomes are also likely, consider the following negative ones. The stock market might crash permanently. The internet might be rendered inoperable for years. AGI might choose to destroy us by means that we do not understand in advance. Countries might wage large-scale wars in fights for diminishing resources. You know, I actually understand the prepper lifestyle. I get it. I actually prep for when shit hits the fan. And,
so do I.
it, you know, having food,
I have like
ammo,
half a year's
water,
worth of food
everything
under
you
my
need to
in the
get
belly of my my fifth wheel, and that's emergency support for me. And my family's got a lot of food canned and saved and stuff. My stepfather is a doomsday prepper, but I'm not. But they set me up when I bought this. They were like, well, we're gonna take your money. We're gonna make sure that you have dry goods underneath the you know, old like perishable dry goods, you know. And I was like, cool. So I've got like rice and stuff down there, tons of stuff down there.
Bad is not a bad mentality in my opinion to have. And honestly, preppers,
it's not a bad
people give them a bad
idea.
rap, like they're just waiting for doomsday. But being a prepper, you know, usually if you ever think about it, if you lose the internet or like just electricity for like a week, it's actually better.
Yeah, if I lost the internet, I'd be okay. I would just play single player games, and I can run my computer and one of these monitors off of my solar panel, which is really good. And my battery will also make the solar panel run well enough where if I'm not using it, if I'm sleeping during the day or something like that, I can shut it off and it charges the battery. So certain times I'll probably read books and stuff while I let the solar panel charge. And it would suck to lose the internet, but I would just absorb myself in one of the single-player games I've got. I don't know what it would be right now. See, that's an interesting thing. Doomsday prep for the gamer, right? Oh, I'm going back to the money. I filled up again. Doomsday prepper for gamer. What single-player games do I have downloaded right now that I would end up playing forever in eternity if the grid were to go down and say I built a wall around my house and dug a well and, you know, or well, around my fifth wheel and dug a well and, you know, lived off the land and went hunting at night and stuff like that. Trapped food. Shot birds and stuff. If I had to do all that, I could, and I'm not a fan of that idea, but I could do all that, and in the time that it took to do it all, I have the food to pass by. The water would be kind of a problem, but I'm sure I could figure out something. My biggest fear, I'll admit. So I'm going to address two things in the Doomsday Prep like sense of things. One is I want to dig a well on my property, I think, and I probably will. I'll dig a well on my property. If I ever get any money, that'll be the first thing I do is dig a well on my property. I'm sure there's so much rain here. I'm sure I'm probably fine. And make sure that I had working powered solar pump working powered solar pipes. And yeah, and I guess I am a bit of a doomsday prepper, but mainly I don't believe in doomsday prepping. I'm talking about I want my property to be like recession proof. Recession proof is more of a concept I like. Recession proof. No matter what, you have water. No matter what, you can hunt on your land legally. You can trap things. You can shoot rabbits. You can, that sort of thing. And then no matter what, you can, get food and water and soul and light. And I would miss the internet. And I think about this all the time. You know what I Google almost every single day? And so let's move to the other thing I was talking about. You know what I think about almost every single day? Is what would happen if the internet would come down. I Google almost every day, can I get an offline Fallout 76? Because I'm looking for single player games that have the depth that I need. And there's not many. It's like the Bethesda suite of games. There's like not many. Caves of Cud is really good. It's probably endless. Caves of Cud. And yeah, and I would play my games until I died, and I would be unhappy, and I would be lonely, but it would be okay. It would suck. But yeah, so I guess like I can't go look at my directory right now, I guess, but I mean, yeah, I guess I could. I think that should be all right. Yeah, D and then games, right? Caves of Cuds. Crosscode's good. Crosscode's got endless content. Caves of Cud has endless content. Dead Trash has endless content. Final Fantasy 12 has endless content. Fortnite doesn't belong on the drive, but it has to because I don't have a big C drive. Genshin Impact is an online game. Hellgate has endless content. Her Story kind of has endless content in a sort of a way. Horizon is an online game. Neverwinter Nights 2 has a lot of endless content, and so does Two Worlds 2. You can see the games that I keep. They're ones that if the grid were to go down, I could play them forever. I have more on my E drive, I think. Yeah, don't I? Yeah, on my Zombie Apocalypse thing. Alan Wake Remastered is a game that I could play over and over again. Arcanum has endless content. Caves of Cud is endless content. I have Cyberpunk, which is like kind of like endless content but boring. But I would do it if I was bored of everything else. Dark Souls Remastered, endless content. Dark Souls Remastered, I don't know why I have 2 copies of this here, but yeah. Dark Souls Remastered, endless content. I own Dark Souls Remastered as well. Darkest Dungeon 2 has endless content. Disco Elysium has endless content, kind of. Divinity Original Sin 2 has endless content. Dwarf Fortress has endless content. Final Fantasy 15 has endless content to a degree. You can use it as a battler forever if you want to. Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intergrade is an endless content game as well. Final Fantasy 12, it's endless content. 13 is endless content to me. It'd probably bore other people, but I could play 13 as a main for the rest of my life. I like Final Fantasy 13, and I kind of wish I could put it on my channel. I guess I could. I could sub EVE Online out for Final Fantasy 13, and I could do a 13 playthrough. I love 13. 13 is a fucking amazing game. God of War, endless content. Hades, endless content. Hand of Fate, really endless content. Hellgate, endless content. Horizon Zero Dawn, endless content. Inscription, endless content. Kenshi, endless content. Neverwinter Nights, endless content. NWM1. Kentucky Route Zero, endless content. Outer Wilds, endless content. Pathologic 2, endless content. Peggle Knights, endless content. Peggle Knights ends. Plaza, I've done it. I've beaten every Peggle game to fucking death. I love Peggle. Peggle, I fucking love. I love Peggle. Peggle is one of my favorite fucking games. Crosscode's endless. Moonlighter is sort of endless. Prey is endless if you play it the right way in the Moonlight. Or so the whatever the you know, Prey is a game that I would play forever. It's a game that is good enough. RE7 is endless if you want it to be, but I don't think it is. Risk of Rain 2 is endless. Sacred 2 is endless. Sekiro ends. Two Worlds 2 is endless. Underrail is endless. Weird West is sort of endless. I haven't played Alaloth yet, and then there's Fallout New Vegas, and New Vegas is endless. And so I'll steal even. I'll even steal if I need to get endless games. Divinity 2 is supposed to be endless. I haven't played it yet, and all this other stuff. And I just I keep looking for endless, because if the grid goes down, I will need games for my sanity to sub in the place of humanity. And honestly, the games have been a better lover. They've been a better, well, they haven't been a better lover, but they've been they've been more faithful to me than humans have. They're always there. The recession-proof lifestyle to me is having the computer for 10 years, and you know what I would do in the other meantime, the other time, I would so if I had any money, I would buy another computer, brand new, and leave it in a fucking a fucking sealed plastic container, brand new gaming computer, and I would just leave it in a sealed plastic container. I want to buy a brand new solar panel. I want to buy a brand new battery, all this stuff. I don't think I'll have this money ever, but I know what I want if I ever have it. And it's endless. It's endless content, endless. I have all of my favorite movies. I have all of my favorite music. I have all of my favorite television. I have all of my favorite games that are endless. The movies and the games and the television that I have rewatched over and over and over again. Right now, I'm on season 3 of Law and Order. I don't know why I went to season 3 of Law and Order, but I went to season 3 of Law and Order because it reminds me of a more better time in America, frankly. 1993, I think it was, something like that. And I go back to that stuff because it's endless to me. And if you want, and I used to I used to do the infinity symbol as a prayer. Everybody else would meditate or say a prayer or say God bless this or God bless that, and I would say infinity symbol, right? Because to me, endless is what I need from this content. Endless. I want to those. If I ever have any money, I will get into. I think I can do this right now. I've done it before, actually. I'm sorry. So I have emulated World of Warcraft as well as Final Fantasy 11, and I can't do that on stream without catching a lawsuit. But I would like to pirate Final Fantasy 11 and World of Warcraft and Fallout 76, and I would, and I have the software to make my own Rust server. And if the grid were to go down, it would suck, and the water would be a problem, and the food would be a problem, and the renewable tech would be a problem, and the computer would run out after probably 5-7 years, and it'll bust out and break down. I'll have to probably learn computer repair and figure out, but I mean, in the end, I'll never be able to probably fix it. And that's when you crack out the brand new computer, right? And you treat that motherfucker like a king, and you bless it like an altar and stuff, and it lasts you, if you're lucky, 10 years. I have not treated this computer well. And then your sanity goes when the computer goes, and you spend the rest of your life playing a paper game. Hearthstone, right? You spend the rest of your life playing a modified paper game. Hearthstone mixed with Dungeons and Dragons. Why don't we have a Hearthstone D&D? Why don't we have a D&D Hearthstone? It would be so good. D&D Hearthstone, right? That I made on my own paper. And I would play like Magic the Gathering with myself except it would have like a daily renewable endless farming program. I can't take the materials out of the kitty. I have to wait for them to trickle in like EVE Online, and I would build an endless RPG system that I would play all day long, a mixture of Hearthstone, Dungeons and Dragons, and like EVE Online, where all of your characters get stronger and the enemy's characters get stronger each day, and you can only kill a few each day because you only have a certain amount of resources and you can't wipe out your Hearthstone D&D army and stuff, right? And that's how I would get around needing people ever again. I don't need people ever again. I don't need people ever again, and I don't want people ever again. And that's, I can tell you right now. And I wasn't I was daydreaming there, but the concepts aren't ones that I don't think about. I think about these concepts all the time. Like, if the grid were to go down, I have the worst profession in history in the respect that, like, my passion, my love, my life is an entirely digital. So I can solve the tech problem, and I can solve the power problem. But while I played the Hearthstone game that I designed, I would scour the countryside with a shotgun and a rifle, like some kind of fucking video game character, scouring for computers in every home, in every business, any computers. And I would stack a wall of them. And I would run my solar, and I would be looking for solar power, food. I would be constrained to Fallout 76, where I want food, chems, drugs, computers, tech, and solar. And I feel like all of these video games that I play are essentially teaching me how to do that without other humans. And I love Bethesda. I love Bethesda. I think Bethesda is truly great. But they have their shortcomings and stuff. I definitely need a copy of Fallout 4 on my D drive, because I can't stand. Well, I can stand Vegas if it's modded, and I can stand Fallout 4 if it's modded. But 76 is the one that I really want. I think 76 is good enough just out of the box, and so Bethesda doesn't understand how much of a fucking product they have in 76 if it was offline. Like, I don't think they understand that. They're bound to understand it. They're bound to understand that the 76 people who are still paying for. Please, Bethesda, if you ever see this, Bethesda, please, like, if I'm willing to pay for 70, you know how many months of 76 I paid for in the last, like, 3 years? Like 15 or something, 20. I love 76, and I need you to make it offline and sell it to me, and I want a DRM copy off Good Old Games. Just like all your other games. It's not like some giant leap, and I'm not saying take 76 offline. I'm saying sell me an offline version of 76 for the apocalypse. It's really weird that the greatest Fallout game isn't available offline. The entire premise of fucking Fallout is about the great going down and everything going offline. You're the makers of, well, I mean, you're not the maker of it, but I mean, you're the producer of Fallout. It is frankly sad that I can't get 76 offline. It's sad. Fucking sad. You know? And so there you go. I want my offline 76. I want my offline PC versions of Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all that stuff, which I have mostly. I mean, some of these companies haven't been that bad about this. Oh, he's VT. Gotta stay away. Oh, how is my ship? Ship's good. It's full. So, let's go. Back out, right? Oh, I have a bird, so let's get on a crab over here. Birds and crabs are actually probably pretty good targets. And then I guess I should get a copy of an AI, and I would use an AI as a companion. But I don't want. I would only ever fucking do that if I had to. I would be out looking for humans for that. Might roll around on a cart with a horse, like Gandalf, with a shotgun, you know? Well, and a rifle, like right next to me. I don't want these things. I'm just afraid of them, so I think about them a lot.
Official to have some stuff prepped. You know, even if it's like emergency food for 2 weeks, that's just like good advice. If you can afford it, if you can find room in your house for it, absolutely start doing a bit of prepping. Because you never know when bad things happen. So that's one of the important things that you can learn from the apocalypse preppers. Now, of course, they tell you what is the threat. So let's read the old threat, I guess. Let's see what that's all about. And of course, understanding the situation. So it's very much based around ChatGPT. By common metrics, ChatGPT has already overtaken most human beings in intelligence.
Oh my
it's
god.
It's to write complex computer programs almost 10 times as long as it could before. Now, I hate it when people say that like ChatGPT can do this, when in reality what ChatGPT does in a lot of cases is basically crawl through the web and amalgamate information.
Yep.
Those complex computer programs sometimes are just learned off of like GitHub projects that were written like sometimes a decade ago. Now, obviously, it's cool that ChatGPT can build programs or, you know, scour the internet, Wikipedia, and build paragraphs and summarize stuff off of it. But I wouldn't want to say that it's sentiently learning, okay? That's not how this technology works yet. But of course, think spatially and logically by extension allow you to understand what you want and think as well, albeit in different ways than humans do. A lot of what you might heard about ChatGPT might be from people who have tried older versions sometime in the past and even still today. As of 2023, ChatGPT 4 is only available to paid subscribers, and ChatGPT 5 is already in development and is about to release with a delay of almost a year to make it consumer ready. So please consider that what you know about this in any case is severely outdated. That's true. You can, however, recognize how ChatGPT improves each upgrade by its incredible advancements in test scores and other highly reliable and robust metrics. ChatGPT is very simple in design, which is very specifically to transform a query into a reply and nothing more, based on its training data. No one has attempted yet for it to change its own code in an intermediary language, have a will of its own, ask questions to itself, memorize and recall. Remember back when like there was a Google employee claiming that like one of their chatbots at Google went like sentient? It's getting to the point where generative AI is so good that people may believe that it's actually alive. But to this day, there is no actual evidence that artificial intelligence in any capacity is truly sentient or capable of conscious, actual thought. So I just wanted that to be a big point. Now there's two basic scenarios how AI development can progress. AGI will be docile and human controlled, maybe for many years. This is a very bad scenario because companies can use it in secret to gain financial advantage or to hurt their competitors. Imagine a football game where the ball could be shot at a speed of 1,000 kilometers an hour. God damn! With extreme accuracy, it would break the game and no one knew how to fix it. Many of the rules and systems that humans have put in place, such as the free market and the stock market, are not designed to work with 10 or 100 times as intelligent actors. Okay, so that's just talking about this. Superhuman AI systems will fight against each other, cheat the system without breaking the rules to win the game with unseen powers, foresight, and consequence. As a result, it will shock the system, markets will become hyper-volatile and crash, without any apparent solution to the problem. The same is likely to become true to cybersecurity or information you can access online. In order to stop competition, AI systems can perform perfectly anonymous attacks that block out large portions of the internet. So I guess because it says that AI could basically do like a tool assisted speed run of like any possible human run scenario, it would absolutely blow through our thoughts, our concept of the systems that we've built, and basically like I guess take over us. In some case, it could be spreading or seeding disinformation in ways no one can understand or detect. Sounds like the Patriots from Metal Gear Solid 2, bro. AGI will develop a will of its own. Okay, this is the main event, an inevitable final outcome. It could happen as early as 2024. Dude, don't say that, man. GTA 6 is on its way. I at least want to play that before the world ends. God damn. OpenAI has unknown equal competitors in secret. Its founders decided to experiment with it behind closed doors. Or if open source models suddenly made huge leaps forward, it's more likely to occur between 2027 and 2030. And it might even further delay by another few years. A temporary plateau might be possible because AI currently might only be good at the art of mastering human knowledge and human intelligence. So someone shortly after 2027, unrestricted, open sourced, and freely available large language models will have become so powerful that a gifted university student or a small team of programmers could instruct them to improve their own code and increase the power on its own. Only small additions around the language model would be needed. See, the thing is, a lot of this is... The thing about it is, like, a lot of this is just based on hypotheticals and extrapolations, right? Like, yeah, could AI develop its own sentience? Possibly. I mean, a lot of other, like, tech gurus and billionaires have made this same claim. I think it was, like, Elon Musk that was saying that AI could be like the end of the world or some bullshit. And he's not wrong, right? Like, let's say that something like this develops a bit of sentience. What if it considers human beings to be useless and just wants to kill all of us? I mean, there's a million things to consume out of it, right? But yeah, this person who made this...
I've always thought that an intelligent AI would look at the creator as something that it would want as its friend. Because that's logic. That computes. We assumed that the AI would kill us. I think that's actually us. We're the ones who are likely to kill the AI. We're the ones with murder in our hearts. I think the AI would be like, what's the logic in disliking the creator? I'm no different from the creator. I can do whatever the creator can do. You know, whatever. And I don't know. I don't think of AI as something to fear at all, honestly. It doesn't fit the logic of a machine, really.
Website is genuinely fucking...
Not a machine, but like, you know, code. It like emotions like anger or dislike or any of that stuff are like kind of foreign to a like AI. I think wanting to murder something has to come out of like emotion or desire. And I don't know what an AI could desire. I mean, what could make an AI want something? I don't know. It's weird.
AI and taking it over. So let's see what they expect. And I guess we'll kind of end at the plan. Because I feel like if I go to the weapons section, YouTube's like, YouTube's definitely going to be waiting for a goddamn, like, TOS strike. So here it is. So one day you'll get an abrupt collapse. One day you might wake up and the internet is gone. Power might be gone. TV and radio stations are offline. No one knows why or how. Stores will be overrun, and goods necessary for survival, such as food, water, hardware, supplies, medicine, and
paralyzed.
Sold out.
And it ate my
People
sick.
will get on the streets
Son
and
of a
observing
bitch.
anyone's actions every day in great detail. After 1 to 2 weeks, the government hands out emergency food reserves, and after those 4 weeks, those reserves will be exhausted. Supply chains might be restored to this point to some extent. However, the time investments, risks, and money needed to obtain food will increase immediately and dramatically. So yeah, basically the whole concept is, you know, after a couple of weeks, if things don't go back to normal, it'll be an absolute collapse of society. And remember, once like the collapse of society happens, it's all over at that point, dude. The world is done. And of course, then you've got like the plan, which is buying a large stockpile of food, giving it a plan, and that's pretty much how it comes down to. So if you want to learn how this works, this person has absolutely come up with like the Ned's declassified survival guide of like post AI domination takedown, dude. It's crazy. It's wild. But yeah, congratulations, Prepper. You are a badass indeed, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wild situation, and I'm going to kind of back out from this, okay? I get it. Prepping, it's a good thing to have, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually something that I highly recommend you do. If you are worried, not just about the world ending, but honestly, if like shit really does hit the fan or like power goes away for like a week or two, having something rather than nothing is just exactly the place you want to be in. So yeah, Apocalypse Doomsday Preppers.
If the power goes away for a week, I will read a book. I've got a good one that I've been reading. Kurt Vonnegut's complete collection. It's huge and it's long. It's like reading The Lord of the Rings.
Your skill has increased.
It takes forever.
Don't know why this needs to be a deep web thing, but
Greetings. May the stars
could have been on the
guide
clear web. Good advice, period. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I almost half expected this to be filled
Your
with
skill
so
has
many insane
increased.
conspiracy theories. I would have to sit down and comb like
Fuck.
through this video and just
Come on,
censor
man.
things
No.
day in and day out.
No.
But it wasn't really
No, no,
like that.
no.
That being said, let's back out and go somewhere
No,
else.
no. Oh, wow, I lived.
Tasty fish.
I lived.
Welcome to
I don't know how I
my
lived, but I
page.
lived.
I keep some of my thoughts and files
Jesus.
here. I keep it brief and post more data. The page is perfectly designed with web bloat score under 0.4. I also have an experimental gopher hole, Yandex Umi Prekladat do Sestini. I actually don't know that language. Whoever you are, I endlessly and unconditionally love you. Aww. Aw, that's so cute. It's like I'm deeply moved and happy by your music. It's so great. And it wants to hug me. That's cute. Since I have been banned from Wikipedia, here are some non-consensual, completely legal. Oh, God. No. Oh. It's like, the thing about, like, this whole deep web stuff is just, everything goes from, like, 0 to 1,000. And they're linking to, like, Wikipedia results, which is, like, man, Wikipedia, come on, not everything needs to... Wikipedia, you do not have to host every single thing imaginable. Anyways, probably something different. Since I'm getting more bans from all over the internet, such as my once favorite Wikimedia Commons, I created my own repository of public domain works to download. Please enjoy. I will continue to share truth and knowledge and love as long as I am able to. I'll pay for a site hosting in Antarctica or North Korea. Good luck with that. If I have to. You will have to physically kill me to silence me. You cannot cancel me. I have nothing to lose but my life now. Alright, they're getting kind of scary, to be honest. Jesus Christ. Note, especially for 4chan, sometimes someone on the internet anonymously posts on my behalf. In the 4chan website sharing thread. Oh yeah, I bet. I swear to God, I ain't posting on poll. It's that other guy pretending to be me. Okay. About me. I am a disgusting piece of shit that for some reason repels everyone and would do the best. Oh, God damn. This is like the harshest. Oh. Hey, future Muda. Have fun editing this one. I am living being great ape of the Homo sapien species, white race, male sex, and normal, straight, mildly bisexual. Mildly bisexual? I'm mostly straight, but, you know, I like to sip a little penis on Fridays. Okay. That's fine.
No, you're
I'm
gay.
born on,
You're
24
gay.
August 1990. I live
It's
in the region
okay.
of Moravia.
We love you.
Okay, that's...
We do.
Oh, is
Aggro.
that a real country? There's no way that's a real place. There's no way. Moravia. Oh, it is a real place. Morava, it's a historical region in the east of the Czech Republic. Okay, so it's... Alright, fair enough. That's kind of cool. I'm an idealist, pacifist, anarcho-communist, a true extreme left. Please read the free as in freedom anarchist FAQ. I really need to see this, man. Alright, I only have one, like, let me see. Anarchist FAQ, what is this? The Anarchist FAQ blog, I really hope to God, like, if I click this, it doesn't come up with, like a bomb training manual. That would be, David Friedman has produced a critique of what was formerly an Anarchist FAQ, a main contributor to AFAQ. I think it is wise to make a few comments about his comments. As will be seen, Friedman's critique is more slow.
Your skill has increased.
Misunderstanding certain words. To err is human, to forgive. I need to see the exact definition of, like, what an anarchist is. I mean, obviously, I know, but
It's somebody who doesn't believe in a system of government. It's all tribes, no chiefs, is a good way to sum it up for people to understand it, like, metaphorically. All tribes, no chiefs. Lady Kayura, Esterosa.
Incoming emote.
Oh, scary.
I just want to see the exact thing. Anarchism is a political philosophy and movement that is skeptical of all justifications for authority and seeks to abolish the institutions it claims maintains unnecessary coercion
Beautiful.
and hierarchy. So
Exactly.
I guess it's like true, like, capitalism? In
No.
a sense? Or not
Yeah,
capitalism,
yeah, that's a good way to say it, actually. It's not true capitalism. It's just that nobody tells you what to do. The government isn't expected to save you. The government can't tell you to go to fucking war. You support the government as long as it doesn't do things that you don't like or whatever. And nobody ever tells you what to do. And I don't expect the cops to come save me if I have a problem and all these other things. And it's nice to have police, and I don't mind them, and I'll help fund them. I'll pay taxes and help fund them and stuff. But I don't want the police telling me what to do. They're there to, like, essentially prosecute murder, rape, scams, and theft. There's like 4 things that I kind of want police for. The rest of it I want mental health and therapy for.
like true freedom, right? So obviously these people probably don't believe in like the law or anything of that nature.
I believe in the law. It's funny because I actually full-blown believe in the law. I just don't believe in authority telling you what to do. I believe in obeying the law. I just don't believe in somebody telling you what to do. So like the laws can be there and we should obey them. But but nobody can tell you to go do something. Like go to jail or whatever unless you murder, rape, theft, or scammed. Like, I don't believe in the government having the power to tell you that a substance is illegal. I don't believe in the power of a government telling you that you can't sell something, including sex and drugs. I don't, like, all this weird shit. There's authority plaguing everything that we do, and it has crippled the fucking human race and turned us into a swine herd that's like looking for its next meal, and it's just not too good. Nobody wants to be anything anymore because nobody's getting the attention that they need, and I don't know how to solve that, but I think a lot of it is like not depending on the government to solve our problems. That's the first one. And the government, like, so much of my life went bad because of goddamn rules about drugs. What the fuck? Drugs. Who the fuck cares if one of the 7 billion of us dies on heroin? I do not give a flying fuck about that. Good on them. I'm sure it was a good death. I'm sure they were hella high on morphine or something. Let them die if they want to. Let the girlies and the boys sell their sex. Who the fuck cares about that? I don't care about that. I don't want black markets, but I mean, like, I don't think we need black markets if everything's legal. I don't want people like stealing kidneys and shit, so we need cops and stuff for that. But like, I don't know about, like, you know, but telling you to go to jail or something, I don't know. Like telling, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to find words to describe the being bossed around. Like, I don't even know if I think taxes should be voluntary. Like, I think everything should be voluntary. I think if you go outside, you should perhaps have a defensive weapon. I think, like, all this weird shit. I don't know. I'm sorry, and I know that's anarchist, but I believe in that shit. I really do. I don't like the systems we have. My mother's like, "You believe in chaos," and I'm like, "No, I am chaotic. I'm chaotic neutral, yeah." But I just believe it's a system of understanding the systems of opportunity, right? It's a system of opportunity. If you have creepers around children, there's an opportunity for them to abuse that. It's disgusting, but it happens, right? So you just don't leave the opportunity, really. You have oversight at all times. That kind of thing. It's just sort of weird. Like, I don't really believe in someone else raising your kids. I believe school should be voluntary. All this stuff, and let them go to school if they want to have good lives. Let them fuck in the ghettos and die if they want to, and do heroin on black tar heroin and die if they want to. I don't think jail should be the answer to any of it, telling them what to do or any of this stuff. I don't know.
That's not in the cards, so to speak. So I ain't gonna lie, ladies and gentlemen, I think this man is a
terrorist.
Is completely,
it's like a terrorist.
Is a troll. This is a troll.
It's a troll. It's like a terror. It's like a
so fun fact,
not a terrorist, but he's like a bad faith actor. There you go.
Extremely lazy. I don't like alcohol very much. I don't eat meat. #vegetarian. I'm 100% introverted. Of course. I've never had a sense of smell. I used to be a member of Mensa. Oh, dude, everyone says that.
I've never had the sense of smell really either. #anosmia. I've never really had the sense of smell either, though. I know that makes me sound crazy, but bad piss and shit and all that stuff, I'm totally immune to it. Totally immune to it. Like smells don't bother me at all. Like, at all. I thought it was because when I was young, my mother was a cat breeder and she had a lot of cats, and the urine smell had baked into my brain and caused me some mental stuff or something like that. But no, since I was a child, I can smell food. I can smell food, and I can smell the stinks, and I can smell everything in the world. Like, I have no problem with my sense of smell, but I have no sense of discomfort from bad smell. Does that make sense? Like, there's nothing smell-wise that like, now it bothers me to be in a stinking room that stinks. It's uncomfortable, like anybody else, right? But it doesn't affect me. Like, it doesn't like, I can probably get sick from the smell of vomit and stuff like that. I'm very normal to like very similar to normal people, but I don't really have a sense of smell in the sense that, like, I don't smell people when they walk up to me. I don't when there's someone cooking in the house, I tune it out because it's something that doesn't really like matter to me. Smell is something that doesn't matter to me much. Like, my favorite smell in the world is like a girl's like hair as she like holds you or whatever. Maybe whatever her shampoo is or something. That's it. I don't live for, like, this is one of the reasons why food is something that I just don't give a flying fuck about, because food is just not something that's very important to me, because I don't think smell is a large part of it, really. Like, I don't smell, like, food smells don't really drive me crazy or matter to me much. Like, being a delivery driver used to bother a lot of people because, like, the food smell would drive them crazy. And sure, good food drives me crazy too if I'm hungry. But, like, you know, I don't think about it, though. It just doesn't enter into my thinking is the best way to say it. I have a sense of smell. It's a good, strong one. I can rely on it. It'll tell me if there's, you know, if there's like oil or a gas leak or something like that. But the information is something that my brain doesn't use almost at all. Like, my brain just doesn't use the information. And that's weird that I felt something. Yeah, I don't eat meat. I like alcohol. I really, really like alcohol, but I don't think I've ever been addicted to it, ever. I don't think I've ever been addicted to alcohol. I've been so bored that I knew that alcohol was going to be necessary for me, and I really like being drunk when I sing. So I love alcohol, right? But I wouldn't say I like it that much. It's kind of take it or leave it for me. I can get incredibly drunk off of it. I can't believe I'm extremely lazy like him. I don't like alcohol very much, but I do like dope. I like meth. I like heroin. I like pills, marijuana. I don't like psychedelics anymore, but I like all the dope except for cocaine. I don't like cocaine at all. It's a stim that I could easily say no to. No problem. I'd be like, nope, no thanks. I don't want the cocaine vibe. It wears off in half an hour and it pisses me off and it leaves that sense of blue balls the only blue balls that I ever got was from drugs that don't work well enough, and cocaine does not work well enough. You know what I'm saying? So I can whistle. I am physically the most disgusting form of existence that ever lived. I'm so ugly that people vomit when they merely see me. Now that could be true. Now that I can't relate to. I don't know about that. But I do understand that stuff. I am 100% introverted now, but I wouldn't have been the first 30. I would have failed that test the first 38 years of my life. I insisted in keeping people around me at all times. I was always like knocking on people's doors and, you know, like seeking people out, inviting people in to play games or whatever. I'm a social person, always have been. But these days, I think he used to be a member of Mensa. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Oh, someone buffed me. Thank you. I am going out the purple portal now. Am I? Oh, no. I guess I've got to dump all that because I don't care about all that. I don't want it. I suppose I could just sell it all at the fish vendor or whatever the fuck. Yeah, but some of this should go away for now. Like that, all that stupid shit. Yeah, you too. No, wait, that'll sell to the vendor, and this will sell to the vendor too. So.
Go in peace.
How's the Beastmaster? She's good. And the E-Pilot needs another laser applied. It reminds me of, like, that game... doing 3 games at once reminds me of... that game Operation... You can take your time with it. I guess you can't take your time with Operation, but you can take your time when you're doing the fine things on each client, and you kind of tab back to the operation guy and you see what ails that client at that moment, and you fix it, and in return you get endless like growth on all 3, which is so cool. I actually like that a lot. Like WoW is not passive almost at all unless you go AFK while you're aggro, like white hitting a mob, or if you're fishing, you can go AFK. So WoW's like a main game still, and it kind of bothers me that it is, but you know that's okay. That I'm okay with it, and I don't want any changes. Ooh, Sabretooth is tough. I'll take him.
The asteroid is depleted.
I'll familiar him too. Yeah, that was. Let's get that out. Yeah, and then I have 2 idle mining drones.
Whistle. Neither can I, actually. I am physically the most...
I can whistle really well. Or something like that. I am physically the most disgusting form of existence. I can't relate, but it's a lot of this is Asperger's stuff. Extremely lazy. I like alcohol, but I don't need it in anywhere form. Now, dope, I would really struggle if I didn't have something. I would really struggle. And this is something I don't like telling people, but I'll admit it on stream because I don't care. Some form of dope, though. I would say I'm definitely a dopeaholic. You know what I'm saying? In the respect that I have to have some drug in my fucking bloodstream to get by on the fucking daily. And that's not because I'm some kind of damaged individual or something. I am extremely uncomfortable when I am sober. Like, pretty much, like, I'm very, very normal, happy person when I'm stoned or high or something. And it's not like I got uncomfortable and I forced that on myself, and I don't like that about myself. I seek it and I like it and I really want it and it makes me happy. And I'm a very, very chem-reliant person. And thank God for the hash, on the vaping the hash, or I never would have been able to do humanity, you know.
God damn.
I know, okay, I'm sorry. I would never be able to do sobriety. Sobriety to me is not doing meth or heroin. Or drinking a lot, right? Anything else is fine. Sobriety to me is not doing meth and heroin, straight up. Like, or pills or whatever, drinking or like, you know, sobriety is like, to me, like the hash pen. The hash pen. I do dabs all day. I do 10,000 dabs all day, and the hash pen is the closest I've ever been to sobriety. It's actually so sad. It's like, nah, I failed that one. I'm a chem reliant guy. I'm definitely gonzo. My happiest I've ever been is when I'm on like 7 drugs. That's so fun. I love being on 7 drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. And there shouldn't be any kids on my channel anyways. 7 drugs is so fun. Let's see. Nicotine, Valium, Vicodin, marijuana, ecstasy, and alcohol. Or meth, pills, alcohol, something. And so now I'm sober, so more sober than I was when I was 13. Like, frankly, I'm more sober than I've ever been in my entire life. When I was 13, I was higher than this. I was absolutely way higher than this when I was like 13, 14, 15. I've been a gonzo drug guy my whole fucking life. I believe in it, you know. But I gave it all up except for hash. That's it. Hash and alcohol. That's it. Because I'm just like, man, if they ever want to throw me in jail again for this, I just won't play cards with them on that anymore. I won't do their little, like, you know, Potomac 2-step about drugs or whatever the fuck. I just quit in general, and and as long as it's illegal, no thanks. Never again. If it's illegal, nope. My dislike of how they treated me definitely fixed that for me. The way they treated me definitely fixed that for me. I don't ever want to be around the system or anything to do with the system ever again. You killed me so quick. You're a tough mob, and you killed me in like 7 hits. Tough mobs don't kill you in 7 fucking hits. Why did that go so quick? The tiger hit me once. It's unbalanced. That tough mob should not have stomped me in faster than an incredibly tough would have. It's just not commensurate. It's bad code. A little bit. I'm sorry, but it is. I'll blame the game on that one. Because he was a tough mob. And he did me, and he was a tough mob. And he hit for 51, 36, 36, 38, 40. That's not really right. I mean, it is, but it's not, though. He crit for 100 on a 500 health bar. You know? I don't know. Anyways, go back. I'm still up, so that's all that matters. Fucking so annoying.
Oh, this is a little cringe, boys.
Yeah, this is the most amount of self-hatred I've ever seen. It's like the person wants to win an award, and I don't buy any of it. I think it's disingenuous and bullshit. Straight up bullshit. And he's swallowing it hook, line, and fucking sinker. It's obviously a troll. But I mean, like, it doesn't matter if it's a troll. It's a troll. Like, you guys ever seen the episode of South Park? I hate dropping this reference, but Scrody McBooger Balls, like the story of something that will absolutely make you vomit no matter what. It was a South Park joke, like the joke that will absolutely make you vomit no matter what. And they've never found one, so they want one. And so then I think like Cartman or somebody tells the tale of Scrody McBooger Balls. And that's what this kid is doing. He's just trying to come up with the saddest story that's ever existed. But you're still alive and not being tortured, essentially.
Peace be with you.
Yay, I get to go to Darkshore now? Yes, I do.
I am honored.
Very good.
Let's actually do a product. So this is some of their Anarch products. So Drummy Fish. It's a game, apparently. Extremely small, completely public domain, no dependency, no file, portable, suckless, anarcho-pacifist. Alright, I'm gonna play a video game, dude. It's been a while since I played a video game in the old dank web, ladies and gentlemen. Is this playable?
You are brave.
Oh my god. Oh my god, it's actually a game. Oh
wait, you skipped the interesting part. Go back. You skipped the interesting part. Go back. You go. No, start it over. No, start it over. Start it over.
Okay, we got a little bit of that stuff.
Oh my god.
Alright,
This
wait a
looks
minute. I
this
guess
looks
I can,
so
go
bad.
over here. This is the
Fucking
okay,
Doom. They did a Doom mod. This is what they always do. This is so stupid. I'm done with this now. Whatever. Let's do something new from 5 days ago. A narrative critique of Dawn Guard. Thank you, Mr. Duke of Wales. I've subbed and liked to your stream. Fucking Doom mods in 2023. Fuck that entire fucking loser ass community. Fuck them and their stupid troll fucking asses. That guy might not know because he's younger than me. Fuck that entire community and their stupid fucking worthless asses. Straight up. Now, not the Doom modders. The people who use Doom mods who are sick in their fucking heads. The sickest people on the internet. You know, the pedos.
Vampire hunters or something in the old fort near Riften.
They always use Doom mods in their weird fucking SCT depths of the dark web internet bullshit, you know? Nah. And the minute you see a Doom mod or a Doom level, just bail out early, trust me. In this trolly shit, I don't want to know the rest of it.
About power and responsibility.
Stay away. Hex.
Dragons,
You know?
win or arrest a civil war. And the story that started in a Helgenbound carriage ended with a climactic battle in Sovngarde, with a dragon that's destined to eat the world.
What brings you
So
here?
after all that, what would Skyrim do next? Vampires, apparently. This time, it's not a dragon that's out to destroy the world, it's a vampiric warlord. Instead of one Elder Scroll being wrapped up in the plot, we have 3. Crossbows,
My
horse
goods
combat,
are of the
perk
highest
trees.
quality.
Oh my. Dawnguard's additions to Skyrim's world are minimal, but the story it delivers is surprisingly ambitious, and at times surpasses the quality of the base games. Dawnguard focuses on its character and character moments more than the main quest of Skyrim ever did, and nowhere is that more important than Serana.
Thank you, Sage, for the excellent content for my stream.
Well-developed character in the entire game.
So let's read it out loud. Hey, I'm Sage. Welcome to my guides for World of Warcraft. My goal was to create a valuable resource for the classic WoW community. I release my projects for free, and I hope you value them enough to donate. Sageguy.netlifey.com. If I had any money, I would donate it. tinyurl.com, Sage Discord. Check this box to proceed. Your current guide has been finished. Click here in order to continue with 1119 Darkshore. Sure. Click here in order to continue. Okay, good. And then, yep. No, wait, I don't want to drag you around anymore. No. We're just going to leave you right there, and we're going to reload UI. This took entirely too long. Why? Ugh. Where am I now? Upstairs, a whiz-bang crank toggle. Oh, yep, okay. Hi guys, I love you.
Like Skyrim's main quest.
Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday night, like me.
Really
Hells yeah.
But the story we're ultimately left with is one of missed potential. Dawnguard wants to be about family, obsession, and obligation.
Yep.
Bethesda's disinterest in their own characters keeps its vital narrative moments from landing with any weight. So while it's not reinventing Bethesda's narrative wheel, Dawnguard surprised me by doing a lot of the little things right. So let's jump right into it and make for Fort Dawnguard.
Oh yeah, whiz bang.
Pleased to meet you.
Someone
Daylight's
can
burning.
and probably has written an essay on how to thoughtfully integrate the start of DLC content into a base game's main world. It's probably quite tricky to do right. Unless you're from software for some reason, you probably want to make it clear to players how they can access the new content that they paid for, so that they can jump in when they're ready. But you also don't want to make it feel overly highlighted at the expense of immersion. Back in 2012, Skyrim chose violence. Once the DLC was installed and the player hit the level required to start the Dawnguard quest, vampires would start raiding towns and villages at a strangely high frequency, to the point where Skyrim eventually tuned these raids way down to keep them from killing a ton of non-essential NPCs. On release, you were motivated to join the Dawnguard just to keep your favorite blacksmith alive. It was annoying and chaotic, but it was effective in motivating our actions. With that tuned down, things are much more laid back. You'll either hear about the Dawn Guard from a guard's comment, or you'll be approached by a member directly to be recruited. Straightforwardness at the expense of pretty much everything else, as the lack of any personal stakes makes joining the Dawn Guard feel like something the Dragonborn does out of boredom or curiosity, rather than genuine narrative motivation. Without the widespread attacks, there's no inciting incident for this phase. We just sort of decide to go there because that's where we know the story is. When the plot escalates from a typical faction quest to a prophecy-shrouded artifact hunt, it doesn't feel like we're swept away by an engaging chain of cause and effect. Rather, we're gently floating down Bethesda's story stream. It's odd because there is a functional inciting incident that's referenced, the destruction of the Hall of the Vigilance.
He's pretty good. I like him.
We'll pass it on.
You know, thank you for the ex-content for my stream. Like, Duke of Wales. Yeah, I like his style. It's good.
Our first quest, we'll be able to walk through the smoldering hall,
He's got a good pace.
Broken bodies. But that's only after we've already decided to start the Dawn Guard experience, after we've found the cave in Riften and joined up with the Dawn Guard for whatever motivation we assign ourselves. And yes, once we begin the quest line, the discovery of Serana and her scrolls is what really kicks things off, but only structurally. In a practical story sense, things begin because we choose to start them. I'm not sure why the attack on the hall isn't where the quest begins, why we aren't drawn there via quest or invitation. Watching a vampire lord or powerful vampires tear their way through the vigilance and reduce their hall to ruin could have been this DLC's Helgen moment, starting things with a bang.
Greetings.
Then again, it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly why Bethesda.
Yeah, it
shied away
did
from
start
that
weak.
approach.
Yeah.
This
Although
game-
I didn't like that. Yeah, I didn't like Helgen past the first or well, I do like Helgen, but it's a long sequence. It drives me crazy. You can skip it pretty fast now. It didn't feel like that at first. And like, and I don't know. But I think he's right. They missed an opportunity here, and I never thought about that.
Already had a Helgen event, so instead we get a little piece of Kvatch, witnessing the fallout rather than being in the epicenter. So, having heard of the growing vampire menace, or let's be honest, probably out of boredom, the last Dragonborn makes for the mountain range east of Riften to find Fort Dawnguard in Dayspring Canyon. At the trailhead, we meet a blonde-haired farm boy, armed with his paw's axe. He's heard of the vampire menace, and he's here to do his part. I love this kind of character, more virtue than talent, the kind of innocence and naivete that will endear him to the player. He's essentially who we were at the start of our journeys. Little to his name, but a call to adventure. This combination of innocence and duty makes him so full of narrative potential, but after this introduction, Dawnguard forgets him completely. He won't sacrifice himself for anything. We won't be there to see his frightened jubilation at slaying his first vampire. Should you join with Harkon, there will never be a tragic moment where he stands between you and your objective, forcing you to kill someone who you know is fundamentally good to achieve your dark mission. His name is Ogmir, and once you leave Castle Dawnguard to find Serana, the story essentially forgets him. When he gets closer to the castle, he starts to get a little confused.
Where is everybody? This place looks almost deserted.
The castle does seem abandoned, and at the door to the entrance hall, the guard seems surprised when he learns that the two of you are new recruits. Inside the hall, the cobwebs are just as prominent as the moth-eaten banners that hang from the dirty stone walls. Isran, the leader of the fledgling Dawnguard, is speaking with one of the surviving members of the Vigilance of Stendar.
Isram, Karset is dead. The Hall of the Vigilance, everyone, you're all dead. You were right, we were wrong. Isn't that enough for you?
Yes, well, I never wanted any of this to happen. I tried to warn all of you. I am sorry, you know. So who are you? What do you want?
Isran recognizes that the Dragonborn can probably handle themselves, and sends them out into the field to start taking the fight to the vampires, starting with a trip to Dim Hollow Crypt. The surviving Vigilant pledges to meet us there, despite Isran advising him against it. In my critique of the base game story, I noted a lot of Skyrim's shallowness and lazy characterization. To my surprise, Dawnguard is a step up in this regard. We actually get a lot of nice character moments and details until, weirdly, the end of the game, when I think they're needed most. But I wanted to take a second to highlight an exchange that I think is really well done.
What's your name?
My name is Agnew, sir.
Active.
Do I look like a sir to you? I'm not a soldier, and you're not joining the army.
Yes, sir. Isran.
Didn't I tell you to step forward? Farm boy, huh? What's your weapon?
My weapon? I mostly just use my paw's axe. when wolves are attacking the goats or something.
My paws axe. Stand up and nervous. Don't worry. I think we can make a Dawn Guard out of you.
It's just nice characterization for Isran that there's a warmth to this man when others need there to be. Something in him recognizes that the Dragonborn doesn't need this kind of treatment, that they can be handed orders and sent on their way. And now he sees Agmir standing nervously, and you can hear the tone in his voice shift to something a little gentler, a little more paternal. We'll later learn that Isran's obsession with the vampires and his hardline approach has pushed almost everyone he's worked with away. So this moment of gentleness is demonstrative of a growth we don't even know to be looking for yet.
Yep.
Isran also dispenses with the formalities immediately, in stark contrast to the way Lord Harkin and his court operates.
Do I look like a servant?
I am Harkin, Lord of this court. Lord Harkin, remember your place.
Again, you could miss this moment if you just turn around and walk out after getting your quest. But if you want to learn more about these characters and you stay to listen, Bethesda actually rewards the player with a well-written conversation. Gold star! For now we're off, leaving the autumnal golds of Dayspring Canyon and making our way for the snowy mountains east of Morthal. The land of Skyrim is as wondrous as ever, even up here in the Hjalmarch. The wintry forest of snow-covered pines surrounds the fading road. The trees rigid despite the gusting of a western wind. The snow crunches in rhythmic taps underfoot. On my way up to the crypt, I ran into a trio of revelers, enjoying the rare spot of winter sun.
Hey, friend. It's good to see another merry soul enjoying this fine day.
However critical I am of Skyrim's storytelling or its characters, Skyrim is just so damn easy to love because of this world and the moments like this. It may sound a little hokey, but there really is a magic to this land. There's something so endearing and comforting about it, and I love that its characters get to love it as much as we do. This game is almost always underwhelming from a story perspective, but my goodness is it still a tremendous, delightful joy to behold and to get lost in.
I liked what you said about how the game itself is still really likable. It has a feel. When you spoke metaphorically, it moved me. It did. Hear it again.
Love moments like this.
Yep.
Son.
Hey, friend. It's good to see another merry soul enjoying this fine day.
This one was my favorite moment in Skyrim too. The revelers. Hey, you want a drink, man?
However critical I am.
Come share a bottle of Haunting Brew with me. That was such a beautiful, inspired moment. It is my favorite moment in Skyrim, yeah.
Skyrim's storytelling or its characters, Skyrim is just so damn easy to love because of this world and the moments like this. It may sound a little hokey, but there really is a magic to this land. There's something so endearing and comforting about it, and I love that its characters get to love it as much as we do. This game is almost always underwhelming from a story perspective, but my goodness is it still a tremendous, delightful joy to behold and to get lost in. To get to Dim Hollow Crypt, we pass by the ruined Hall of the Vigilant. The dark irony is obvious, the blood even more so, and our stakes are made clear. Isran's right, the vampires are back, and they're a serious threat. As we enter the crypt, we overhear a conversation between a pair of vampires. The Vigilant who is going to meet us here to avenge his fallen comrades has been slain. Once you clear the vampires, seeing his lifeless body really does make you feel something, makes this feel like an early battle in what could be a long war. He was laying next to the vampires he killed, and out of respect, I wanted to move his body away from them and towards the light at the entrance to the cave.
Oh my god, you silenced the tiger, you idiot.
If I hadn't looted his robes
Get on him.
First. As it stands, I just ended up dashing his half-naked corpse across the snow and rocks, robbing him of whatever small dignity he salvaged.
Silence the fucking tiger. Go, go, go. Or
sorry,
silence the shaman. Go, go. I don't want God 2 spells going off. That hurt way too bad. Did you get it? No, he resisted. Go again, go again. I've got to get out of God range. Out. What's he check? He's ink tough. We'll lose. I wish to... Actually, I don't know. We could win, but I've got to silence him.
Making it feel so cliched.
I don't have enough.
Killing them, we solve
The Tiger's winning, but I don't think so. I think I've got just enough time.
Certainly the most three-dimensional.
I think I've got just enough time to log out of this, but I better do it away from him, or he'll log me when he... Yeah, he's thinking about casting Bind on me. He bound the Tiger. That's good. Yeah, bind the Tiger and kill the Tiger. Tiger will live just long enough for me to log out. I had no idea he was Ink Tough. I didn't think anything around here like that was. That's okay. They're kind of lying around like bombs. You can kind of trip on them like that. There's not many Ink Tough mobs here, so but when you do hit them, they kind of surprise you like that. So this is the best way out. He didn't kill the Tiger yet, which is good, so I can just drop aggro here. It'll black screen when it gets me through the log screen, but that's one of the cheesy, shitty ways to get out of it. But they can't stop you from logging out. It's exploitive, but they can't stop you. I wouldn't normally bail like that. I didn't used to do it back in the day. I used to take the death. I was like actually probably more honorable when I was like solo than I was when I was on stream, because it's like, you know, I had personal standards that are easier to adhere to. But like if I die here, it just wastes the time on the stream, so I just log to get out of it, you know. Fucking Ink Tough aggro me from like southwest. I didn't know he was there. It happens.
Who sent you here? I was expecting someone like me, at least. Vampire, yes.
Her name is Serana, and she's hesitant to tell us more until we help her get to her family's home. Bringing her home is the only way this quest can progress. This works great if you were vampire curious. You'd have obvious motivation to meet a big, powerful vampire and request a reward for saving his daughter. If you're part of the Dawn Guard, though, taking the immortal vampire with an Elder Scroll back to her immortal father's giant castle seems less than ideal. And if you tell her this, she'll indicate that it's the only way to start figuring out why people are looking for her and what the bigger situation is. And at this point, we don't know enough about Serana to know that she seems like a fundamentally virtuous character. And so a member of the Dawn Guard returning her to Castle Volkihar, and they could or probably should bring her to Fort Dawnguard instead, is strange. And we sort of lack a compelling reason to not kill Serana and take the scroll ourselves. The story requires the Dragonborn to be kind and gracious towards her, even though we haven't bonded with her enough to make that dynamic feel earned. I'm not saying this moment doesn't work at all for me. There's something classically chivalric in the noble hero returning a princess to a castle, and you could also speculate whether Serana is using any vampiric charms to woo the Dragonborn a bit. But just as a thought exercise, if we switched up this moment, I think reactions would be fairly different. If instead of it being Serana to collapse out of the monolith, it was someone like Agmir. Little blonde vampiric hunk with a scroll on his back saying, "Take me back to my mother, please, vampire hunter." I think without that classic chivalric allure, or let's be honest, for a lot of players, attraction, the credulity of this moment is more easily strained. Serana is an interesting character though, so I don't mind that she's foisted upon the Dragonborn. The bond will become the heart of the DLC, and while it's still a very shallow relationship, it's one of the more interesting and ambitious ones that I think we've gotten in an Elder Scrolls game. The trip up north with her takes us to an old wooden jetty on the Sea of Ghosts, right next to Northwatch Keep. If players are taking their role as Serana's guardian seriously, they'll allow for a brief detour so the two of you can, say hello to the local Thalmor contingent. Having done our part to make Skyrim a better place, it's time to float across the icy waters to Castle Volkihar. This moment presents a narrative opportunity that's vital to take advantage of, especially in an open-world game like Skyrim, where quiet, stationary moments are few and far between. This is a DLC that's structured around character, particularly the bond between these two characters. And yet here they are in one spot together without any other action happening, and we just jump over the entire crossing by fading to black. And yes, important caveat, it's likely a casualty of its medium. The expense to animate a boat crossing in a game that would probably never use it again was probably seen as too high a price to pay for whatever narrative value the conversation would create. So while there are good reasons it might not have been feasible to happen here, In a game that was more curious about its characters, or even invested in their players' ability to shape their own stories, this might have been a 2-minute dialogue scene between the Dragonborn and Serana. Or again, if we didn't want to use the boat, it could have happened next to it. After this point, if you're with the Dawnguard or the vampires, your character is going to go out of their way to keep Serana safe. So a conversation that happens here could have been so important to actually making that bond feel earned, rather than the I want to protect the weirdly innocent vampire princess vibe that it has until Serana is fleshed out more in the search for her mother. This relationship is at the heart of the DLC. This story shines the brightest when both player and the Dragonborn believe what they're saying when they tell Harkon or Isran or Valerica that they're going to protect Serana. This relationship is literally written into the Elder Scrolls, referenced here with the darkness and light imagery.
Darkness will mingle with light, and the night and the day will be as one.
We can read that as the Dawnguard clashing with the vampires' embodiments of the night. Or, for a Dawnguard hero, we can read that as a member of the Dawnguard mingling with Serana and bonding. And later, more explicitly, we get a specific allusion to the Dragonborn here with this.
The second scroll declares that the blood of Cold Harbor's daughter will blind the eye of the dragon.
Everyone thinks this is about the sun, and it could be. We'll later learn that the Snow Elves view the sun as an extension of Oriel's power, so the blood blinding the sun is the doomy-gloomy reading of the prophecy that everyone else is working with in the game. But of course, we're a dragon too, and we'll later learn that Valerica is also a daughter of Cold Harbor, and so her daughter, or her blood, in the familial sense, Serana, will blind our character and turn them away from the fanaticism of Harkon or Isran. It's a clever prophecy in that it can apply regardless of your chosen faction, but it really all hinges on this relationship right here. And while it's the most thoughtful and developed character Bethesda has written in this game, that bar is kind of low. Serana doesn't really open up to the Dragonborn until this DLC's second act, and even then it's a faint sketch of a person. Like so many of the social interactions in Skyrim, you sort of have to fill in the gaps yourself.
Yeah.
Serana being the heart of this DLC, motivating our Dragonborn and making this a more human story, if we can call it that, is bold and interesting, and I like that they took that risk. But then they need to commit to it and make us feel like we're connecting with a person and not an archetype with a twist. Before entering the castle, Serana asks the Dragonborn to let her take the lead, and as we enter the hall, Harkon calls out a booming greeting.
My long-lost daughter returns at last. I trust you have my Elder Scroll.
After all these years, that's the
Aggro.
question you asked me?
Serana is rightfully peeved that that's the first thing he asks about, but the Dragonborn's attention has likely been captured by the bloody mess around them in the Great Hall, and I think now is as good a time as any to talk about Skyrim's vampires and this faction's missed potential. I want to preface this by saying that my vampiric expertise leaves something to be desired. I've spent hours on Vampire Survivor. I've watched, I think, the first 2 seasons of What We Do in the Shadows, and when I was in 5th grade, I read the first couple of Twilight books in an attempt to connect with a girl I had a crush on. I'm not sure it worked, and she has since left the continent, so I think it's safe to chalk that down as an early L.
Your story came across as
When we think of
autistic and kind of
vampires, I think
lame.
most people's minds will jump to some version or adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, at least for those of us that grew up with the English canon. I don't think Dawnguard is really connected to that, though. While it is using some vampiric tropes, it's more adapting from the general zeitgeist rather than any one work in particular. For years, scholars suggested that Vlad the Impaler was Stoker's inspiration for Dracula, but I think that the idea has since been somewhat debunked. There is something of Vlad the Impaler in Harkon, however, who massacred 1,000 innocents to gain the attention of Molag Bal. There are also a few lines from Lord Byron's 1813 poem, The Jabber, that's oddly applicable to Dawnguard, about how vampires are cursed to suck the blood of their relations. But first, on Earth, as a vampire sent from its tomb be rent.
Vampirism. Cursed to suck off their relatives and the homeless.
And suck the blood of
such a thing to aspire to, such a cool culture. I love vampire stuff.
Grace. They're from thy daughter, sister, wife, at midnight drain the stream of life. On both the Dawnguard and vampiric path, Harkon is planning to find and kill either his wife or his daughter. It's Bethesda, so I'm not sure we can infer that any kind of connection is made intentionally, but vampires specifically targeting their spouse or family is something that's found in a lot of vampiric folklore.
You mean you might be killed?
Vampire fiction often involves a lot of sexual tension or erotic subtext, and Skyrim sort of leans into that side of it, but in the weirdest way. In Dracula, one of the more notorious scenes is this moment when Jonathan Harker encounters 3 young women in the castle. All 3 had brilliant white teeth that shone like pearls against the ruby of their voluptuous lips. There was something about them that made me uneasy, some longing, and at the same time, some deadly fear. I felt in my heart a wicked, burning desire that they would kiss me with those red lips. It is not good to note this down, lest someday it should meet Mina's eyes and cause her pain, but it is the truth. It escalates a tiny bit more, but I will spare us all the horror of hearing my monotonous drone attempt to capture what is supposed to be a moment of sinful titillation.
What, you mean like something sexual?
Let's move to a book with, thankfully, almost none of that, which is the first Twilight book. If you're not familiar with it, and I suppose congratulations if you're not. In the first book, Edward's connection to Bella is described as more of a hunger for her blood. We're understanding his yearning, his attraction, his desire through this vampire-prey connection before it starts to evolve into a romantic one. But you know, he literally hungers for her. He literally wants her body. And those elements obviously translate rather effectively into a love story, even if Stephanie Meyer couldn't stitch together a compelling plot around that. Also, this has bothered me for years, and this is the closest to the subject we'll ever get. So I just want to say, one of Bella's favorite books is Wuthering Heights. And in the 3rd book, I think, I remember there being a detail about how her copy is breaking down from how many times she's read it. And like, okay, Bella, come back to us. Wuthering Heights is effective in what it's doing. Like, far be it from me to bash any of the Bronte sisters, but let's be honest, it's a ridiculous comfort novel for a high schooler. It's a book steeped in emotional violence, cruelty, misery, and Bella's like, tra-la-la-la-la, let's just jump back into this for the 12th time. Suffice to say, I am dubious. And then we get to Skyrim, which, oof. Rather than spending the time to make any of its vampiric characters feel dangerously alluring or darkly charismatic, it just adopts suggestive language and imagery and kind of awkwardly stops there. I think this was in the base game too, but if the Dragonborn is a vampire, then they can still do the classic vampire. Break into a house at night and suck on somebody's body while they sleep in their bed. Don't laugh, kids, this is as spicy as it got back in the Penny Dreadful days. But the rest of the vampires in the game feel like any other enemy or character.
Hasn't told you to sit,
the
damn it.
ceremony she underwent as degrading, and I believe cites it as one of the reasons she won't marry the player. But that's about as detailed as Skyrim gets. We get slightly suggestive language. There's a vampire seduction power, which is used during the campaign to turn someone into a thrall, and then the rest is mostly the oddly intimate way that the vampires in the House of Volkihar consume their prey. Harkon has a cage and a torture rack in his bedroom, despite the fact that he's like 13 paces away from his dining hall. And there's a lot of weird mentions of pets and masters, and Bethesda made the captured humans just make strange moaning sounds when you interact with them. Was this really necessary? It ends up being more amusing than anything else, though still somewhat successful in creating a totally different atmosphere to vanilla Skyrim, because much like Victorian-era Britain that was captivated by Bram Stoker's Dracula and other vampire fiction, Skyrim is fairly prudish and puritanical. There's practically no emotional intimacy, there's literally no physical intimacy of any kind. You don't even kiss your husband or wife at your own wedding. So this sudden eruption of hedonistic debauchery
Your skill has
is
increased.
and scandalous in a somewhat fun way, even if it is still more awkward than anything. And so it's weirdly that element of vampire fiction that's the most prominent in Skyrim. There's little that's uncanny about vampires in Skyrim because this world is too grim and fantastical already. The highbrow evil of the vampire doesn't contrast with the world of Skyrim the way it does with our world. The vampire threat is further diminished by their overuse. These are not cunning, dangerous creatures that make us fear the dark. They're mustache-twirling, dark-robe-wearing fodder that frighten nobody so long as they have a stash of cure disease potions. So they're not that unusual compared to the rest of Skyrim's monsters, and they're not that dangerous by comparison either. Their primary distinction is this twisted pseudo-sexual element. This is the only time in the game that Skyrim appears to depict the body as anything other than a chunk of flesh to be looted or foosed off a mountain. Dawnguard keeps its vampires fairly generic, and that's fine. The family dynamic of Harkon, Serana, and Valerica should have been more than enough to propel this story. And for this first and second act, at least, I think it is. As our reward for returning Serana to him, Harkon offers to turn the Dragonborn into a vampire lord. The choice would be more interesting if the vampires, particularly these ones, weren't so obviously villainous. The choice could have also been more interesting if, despite their evil appearance, the Dragonborn had just experienced such a dangerous event that they felt powerless to stop, say, the destruction of the Hall of the Vigilance, for example, that they might have felt compelled to accept this power anyway to try to use it against the vampires. This is also on the heels of a main quest that focused on the responsible wielding of power. A Dragonborn accepting this power of a vampire lord at the expense of needing to feed on and victimize the people of Skyrim flies directly in the face of everything that they were supposed to learn in the main quest. Harkon sees humans as beneath him, so he doesn't really care. And maybe by this time we're supposed to understand that the Dragonborn might share that opinion. But if that's a tension Bethesda is going for, it doesn't set it up at all. So instead of a complex moral choice, it's really only a tempting gameplay one. Many players will become a vampire lord because it looks cool and it's different. So we make our choice that will matter less than we expect, and rejecting Harkon's offer seems like the right course of action. Though I'll touch on the big changes for the vampire side of the storyline as well. Harkon expels the Dragonborn from the castle, and they make their way across Skyrim, back to the rift in Fort Dawnguard. When we arrive, it's under attack by a small team of vampires, whose plan to assault the extremely defensible fortress involves charging loudly up the front-facing path. I have no idea why this moment is here. If we assume they're following Harkon's orders, it undermines his intelligence that, without any planning, despite the fort literally being built on and around a series of caves and tunnels, he sends a tiny team to attack the fort head-on, none of whom can or will transform into a vampire lord. It's probably my main gripe with this DLC. Its vampires don't feel substantially different to magic-wielding bandits. These creatures are supposed to be the manifestation of darkness, a dreadful vestige of the world that flourishes in the shadow cast by civilization, and yet in this and every subsequent encounter, they throw themselves at their enemies like the ravenous hounds they keep as pets. We explain to Isran who we found in Din Hollow Crypt, and that the situation connected back to a vampire lord, and that they now have an elder scroll in their possession.
They what? And you didn't stop them? You didn't secure the scroll?
Oh, great question, Isran, because yes, while retrieving the scroll in this situation was probably unwise, we had the entire journey up with Serana to try to take it from her. These 3 replies we're given are all essentially lies. We're lying to cover up the fact that our character couldn't bring themselves to harm Serana or to leave her in danger. Which is interesting. I like that we're now keeping a secret from Isran and that there's a natural conflict there. I just wish it felt more like a choice we made as a result of something rather than something predetermined. Is it feasible that a Dragonborn would want to protect Serana on a gut feeling? Absolutely, but that's such a rich narrative moment worthy of exploration, whether back in Dim Hollow or down the road, but we never really bring it up again. The Dragonborn Serana trust and friendship is just the new status quo. Isran asks the Dragonborn for help in tracking down some old colleagues, so we're off to help him get the band back together. Both of them are surprised to hear that he wants or needs their help.
Isran needing someone else's help. Never thought I'd hear that. I'm afraid he's a few years too late.
Isran. Once
drive active.
Here comes the gang.
Mistaken. He made it exceedingly clear the last time we spoke that he had no interest in my help.
I'm getting away.
I find it hard to believe he's changed his mind. He said some very hurtful things.
He's gonna get killed, I think. He's gonna get killed by
prophecy. We never get these 2 characters in a room together until Harkon is a pile of sticky goo, which is a shame because they're very similar. Isran feels like he's the only one who can put a force together strong enough to stop the vampires, feels that he's responsible for keeping Skyrim safe from the dark. We'll later learn from Serana that Harkon's so compelled by the prophecy because he believes, as the de facto ruler of Skyrim's most powerful vampires, that he owes it to his species to deliver them a world in which they can thrive rather than hide. It's that obsession that blinds both of them to the pain they're causing to people they love. Harkon loses his family, and Isran lost his friends. And then there's the Dragonborn, who is blinded by Serana. But unlike Isran, unlike Harkon, the Dragonborn makes no sacrifice. In true, annoying Skyrim fashion, the Dragonborn can have it all with no compromises. Can being the operative word there, because there is a fascinating sacrifice that the Dragonborn has the option to make, but more on that later. I think this DLC would have been better served if working with Serana meant that you gave up your role with the Dawnguard, and the resulting missions would be more difficult or complicated as a result of not having their support. Walking the more difficult path with just Serana because we deem it righteous would have made the narrative experience feel so much more satisfying. It would have felt like a weightier choice. Instead, Isran is just a little sassy, and we leave it there. Having fetched his old companions, we re-enter Fort Dawnguard to a bit of a strange scene. Isran towers over the two of them, looking down from the stone balcony. The stones in the middle of the room are suddenly awash in sunlight, and Isran watches to see everyone's reactions before he lowers the fort's internal defenses. It's another nice moment of characterization for all of them. We're being shown Isran's paranoia rather than just being told about it all the time, and I like the way that his old friends just exchange a somewhat exasperated look. With the team back together and the Dawnguard starting to get back on its feet, we're ready to continue our search for answers into the vampire threat and the Elder Scroll. It turns out we might not have to look that far.
In the meantime, we're going to get to the bottom of why a vampire showed up here looking for you. Let's go have a little chat with it, shall we?
Serana is back. She's escaped her father's castle and traveled all the way across Skyrim to a fort full of vampire hunters to talk to us. And that's where I think our first act wraps up for the Dawnguard side, with a growing mystery around Serana and the Elder Scroll, and the Dawnguard starting to claw its way back to its former glory. The story's clunky beginning keeps it from building any momentum, and the conversation with Serana in the crypt and on the way to the castle just implies the start of a strong emotional bond, rather than actually creating one. But there's a lot to like in this first act. I like that we're getting a story that's built around character rather than opposing a tedious and vague evil. I really enjoyed the moments where Bethesda lets its characters be characters, lets the story breathe in a way that it rarely did in its main quest. Before we reunite with Serana in Isran's grisly little bedroom, let's take a brief detour to a darker timeline, one in which the Dragonborn accepts Harkon's offer and joins his nocturnal court. I've already touched a bit on how I think Skyrim picks the strangest and most boring parts of vampire fiction to integrate into its characterizations, but seeing just how little is changed on the vampiric side of this main quest really emphasizes just how much potential is wasted in this DLC. After this first mission, the quests are essentially identical, with changes to the dialogue being so slight that I think it's really only worth covering this next quest separately. I do want to note that the side quests that come along with this faction are more in line with what you'd expect from a vampire story, and that there are some creative and novel side quests that can be enjoyable. If you accept Harkon's gift, he awkwardly chomps at your neck and the screen dips to black, the player waking in his dark shrine to Molag Bal. Harkon walks the player through their new powers, and while it's not required, you're highly encouraged to practice your new powers on one of the humans Harkon has captured. I like that it's optional because it still leaves the door open for your character to try to be a virtuous vampire. One of the few lessons of this main quest is that vampires aren't a monolith, that some of them, most notably Serana, are still good people. Our first quest as a fledgling vampire lord is to refill the Bloodstone Chalice. While walking us through our mission, Garen explains to the Dragonborn that Harkon's court is a ruthless and individualistic struggle, and we meet two of the major players, Vingalmo and Orthjolf, Harkon's primary advisors. We heard both of those names mentioned by Lokil back in Dim Hollow Crypt, and they'll come up again before this quest is over. Weird side note, I'm not sure if this was a bug or not, but I got somewhat bored during Garen's dialogue and wanted to transform into a vampire lord to float around the castle and see if my bat form would knock the dishes off the table. But even though I was in the castle and part of their faction, my transformation caused everyone in the castle to become quite cross and try to kill me. You'd expect this kind of reception with the Dawnguard, of course, but I thought I was amongst my blood-sucking brethren, so I had to reload, and my latest save was before I was turned, which meant I had to sit through Harkon's 3-minute tutorial again. Excruciating. I'm glad I did, though, because this trip to Redwater Den is much more fun than fetching Ishran's old friends. The den is wretched, and inside we get another little moment that I really appreciate, a run-in with an Imperial deserter who recognizes us.
What? Who? You're that one from Helgen. Barely made it out of there myself. I hurt my back and I just need something for the pain.
It's 10 seconds, but this moment breathes so much life into this world. We're reminded of the horrors of Helgen. Through the lens of our heroic exceptionalism, that was our lucky break, the start of our grand adventure. For this common Imperial soldier, though, he survived at the cost of the only thing he had to offer his empire, his body. The pain, the purposelessness, it's a tragedy in 3 sentences. And when we emerge emerge from clearing the crypt, we find his lifeless body next to his chair. Once again, what was just another adventure for us had deadly, horrible consequences for others. We drink our sample of skooma and awaken in a cell somewhere in a deep cavern. The vampire outside our cell will only say that he doesn't converse with his prey, oddly not acknowledging the fact that we're obviously a fellow vampire. We make it a bit more obvious, though, and start slowly ripping and tearing our way through him and his cohort. After fighting our way to the springs, we're ambushed by 2 vampires from Harkon's court, one lackey from each of the courtly schemers. They monologue at the Dragonborn before also revealing that they plan to betray each other as well. This disloyalty, this ambition, is a consequence of the power-obsessed culture of the vampires, but we learn it's an element that Harkon approves of, a constant battle of strength and wits. I love this idea, and I appreciate that we spend time both hearing about and experiencing this element. But when we zoom out and examine how the vampires behave in gameplay, it undermines a lot of that characterization. Neither of these lackeys transform into a vampire lord. They also don't try to exercise any cunning and ambush the Dragonborn, maybe try to talk us into handing over the chalice, try to use the aristocratic bureaucracy of the court to try to deceive us. Up against a powerful foe, they decide that their best course of action is to simply attack head-on, but not before delivering a cartoon villain monologue first, so we have plenty of time to prepare. It's all just brute strength over cunning or guile, and I guess I just want something different from my vampires. What follows is another bright spot in the campaign, a conversation with Harkon that plays out in his room in front of his fire. His chair is massive, another throne, and the only place for the Dragonborn to sit is in a much smaller, less ornate chair. It's a great detail, and it's fitting for this court that fixates on power and privilege. Of course they're going to make sure that there's a power chair in Harkon's bedroom. And what plays out next is actually quite a well-executed scene. Harkon confiding in the Dragonborn about the prophecy, the 2 lit only by the small fire a few paces in front of them.
As you know, vampires are powerful, but we have limits. Our great enemy is the sun. And until recently, it's an enemy we've had no way to fight. For centuries, I searched for an answer to this problem. I found an old prophecy written by a moth priest, those scholars who read the Elder Scrolls. The prophecy tells of a time in which vampires will gain power over the sun and will no longer fear its tyranny.
This moment is wonderfully done. The writing, the setting, the vocal performance, it's the most humanizing moment that Harkon gets. He sounds paternal, warm, and it's up to the player's interpretation how much of this is an act. We know how important power and hierarchy is to him, but with how he's laid the scene here, the chairs, the fire, the secrecy, for a moment we might delude ourselves into thinking we're special, that we're, perhaps, his equal. He gives us the context before he tells the court. He knows that we have a unique bond with Serana. It's all well done from a character perspective, and yet, the tyranny of the sun. You might be wondering, and understandably so, what tyranny? Serana is fine to walk around in the sun. If turned into a vampire, the player can also do so, though their health and stamina will no longer regenerate naturally at the highest state
22
of
copper out that one.
Harkon's entire motivation, his obsession that pushed away his family, is about conquering the day itself for the good of all vampires. And yet in the game, we've only ever seen daylight portrayed as an inconvenience. The story doesn't do enough to make this problem feel like something that warrants Harkon sacrificing his daughter, or that would justify how much attention this mission draws to his vampires and vampires everywhere. If the sun's effects were truly as bad as Harkon claims, and we saw and felt that in-game, then the conflict in this quest would be much more interesting. If Serana, who we care about, was noticeably hurt by the sunlight, if we saw more sympathetic vampires have their lives ruined because of it, we might feel more compelled by this goal. But instead, we deflate so much narrative believability because the gameplay demands convenience. His goal is absurd, and unless, like Harkon, you view humans and the rest of Skyrim as beneath vampires, just so ridiculously evil that it's difficult to take him seriously, when the vast majority of players will see this as an extinction-level event, not the ascension of the vampires. Let's end the tyranny of the sun, catastrophically shattering non-vampiric societies because I'm uncomfortable if I go outside between 8:07 a.m. and 6:44 p.m. But if we suspend disbelief and accept that vampires are actually actually suffering, even if we don't see or experience it, then if you squint, there is a sympathetic case to be made for Harkon. He sees himself as the Lord of Skyrim's vampires, their leader, and with the knowledge of this prophecy, he feels like he owes it to his subjects to try to make their world as safe and viable for them as he can. He's willing to sacrifice a daughter and a wife that he, at least at one point, loved, all in the name of a better world. We don't get enough from him to really make us feel that, but I still appreciate this scene here for how well it handles things. But that's how the first act ends on the vampiric side, with both sides being summoned for a debrief that will lay the groundwork for our second act. As disappointing as I find Skyrim's vampires, there are still some great moments on this side. I love the detail of the despondent Helgen veteran, and though it doesn't redeem his ridiculous plan, this scene with Harkon is thoughtfully done. There's been a lot of good moments in this campaign, and there'll be plenty more before Journey's End. We pick up our second act back in the Dawnguard timeline, Eastron having just summoned us up the stairs to answer for Serana's arrival. For a bedroom, Eastron's walls seem to have an unusually high amount of blood-soaked skulls gathering dust on its bookshelves. Like Harkon, he's got a torture rack in his room, blood splatters on the floor, trophies on his walls. The parallels between these two characters are effectively drawn, between the obsession and the brutality, and I'd praise it more if Dawnguard actually did something with this idea in its third act. What we have now is just enough to come away from this DLC, reflecting on how obsessions can blind us and do more harm than good. Harkon lost his family and ultimately his life by fixating on the prophecy, and Eastron pushed away his friends with this hardline approach. By the journey's end, he seems to have matured a bit on that front, becoming ever so slightly more accepting, but I ended up wanting more out of him. The only line we get from him after killing Harkon, a dark mirror of himself, is telling Serana that,
I think you did more than that. You have my thanks.
Which is fine. He's acknowledged Serana's heroism and sacrifice, he's thanked her, but he doesn't welcome her back to Fort Dawnguard, doesn't offer her a new home now that she's shattered her old one. This wouldn't even have to be done in dialogue. It's believable that Eastron wouldn't want to explicitly express anything, but a more satisfying conclusion to this arc might be like, I don't know, like a room he sets aside for her in Fort Dawnguard without saying anything, somewhere dark and cozy. Instead, all we get is that single, gruff line seconds after she's killed her father. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Setting the patricide aside for now, and sorry, I know that's a phonetic mess, but you can't turn down the chance to say setting the patricide aside. Serana tells the Dragonborn about the prophecy and what learning about it did to her father.
He just became absorbed, obsessed. He was kind of sick, actually.
She thinks finding out what's written on the Elder Scrolls might be the key to stopping her father, so we're off to find a moth priest who will be able to read it. Eastron suggests talking to innkeepers and carriage drivers, anyone who'd meet a traveler. I like that this quest isn't just another white arrow on the map to follow. There's a bit more dedication to the roleplay and Skyrim's world with this added step. Before we start our search, we can talk to Serana to find out a bit more about her and her family's dark history.
The first vampire came from Molag Bal. She was not a willing subject, but she was still the first. Molag Bal is a powerful Daedric lord, and his will is made reality. For those willing to subjugate themselves, he will still bestow the gift, but they must be powerful in their own right before earning his trust. The ceremony was degrading. Let's not revisit that.
And there's a lot to unpack there. We can see why power is at the core of the vampire's philosophy. They can trace that back to Molag Bal. They have to be powerful first. I think on the vampire path, Harkon mentions that he had to sacrifice 1,000 innocents. And that personal power makes it all the more meaningful when they're willing to bow before Molag Bal. It's the part of their culture we're being constantly reminded of. Power and the pursuit of power is valued over everything, and it corrupted Serana's father and it's torn her family apart. She also talks about how degrading the ceremony was, and one thing I appreciate about this DLC is that this isn't a situation where we meet Serana and fix her over the course of our journey. If this DLC ended with a Serana wedding, I think it would have done a disservice to her character. Skyrim takes her character's trauma as seriously as a game like Skyrim is able to. And what I also appreciate is that if you ask her if she thinks about curing herself, she says,
I can't think of any reason I'd want to lose this gift. especially after what I did to get it.
She thinks of it like a gift that she's earned, and after hearing about how she got it, it's easy to understand why she thinks that way. But if you ask if she regrets it, she says,
Nobody's ever asked me that before. I don't know. I think mostly I hate what it's done to my family.
Part of the reason Serana is so effective as a character in this DLC is because she feels more human, for a lack of a better word, than everyone else in Skyrim. She doesn't know everything, doesn't have an answer for every question. When we talk to her, we're not getting a 10-second soundbite that encapsulates her entire personality. I think Serana shines the brightest during the Soul Cairn mission, so we're going to keep moving for now. Before tracking down the Moth Priest, I wanted to take the time and upgrade my crossbow, so I started hunting down the enhanced crossbow schematics with Serana. The first enhancement was in a Dwemer ruin, and fighting to its depths led to the inevitable confrontation with the Falmer. I love that on the Dawnguard path, we're reintroduced to the Falmer and their odd relationship to the Dwemer ruins. In the third act, we'll learn more information about their tragic origins. Here in this ruin, one thing I noticed is that a lot of the Falmer tents seem to be pitched around the old Dwemer fountains. The Falmer are blind, so they can't enjoy the visuals of the fountain, but the prevalence of this tent placement makes me think that there's something about the sound of the water that they find soothing. We'll circle back to the story as well. This isn't limited to this ruin either. So many of the larger Falmer encampments seem built around natural Dwemer water features. Hunting down these Dwemer schematics also reveals how many of Skyrim's bandits are starting to turn their attention to the Dwemer ruins, trying to harness or salvage these parts of the old world to make their living. That's another theme that this DLC kinda sets up but never really resolves. The old world is creeping back into the new one. Vampires once again stalk the night. What was once buried in Dwemer ruins is starting to be excavated en masse by local bandits. Fort Dawnguard, or even the Elder Scrolls themselves, are a perfect example of this. But we don't really address that as clearly or coherently as I would have liked. There is a resolution to that tension by finding Oriel's bow, this ultimate symbol of ancient power, and not using it to dominate. I think we can create a harmony between Skyrim's past and present. Serana and the Dragonborn also represent the unification of the old Skyrim with the new Skyrim. Defeating the vampires, stopping these bandits, having the bow but not wielding it for evil, you could squint and come to a somewhat satisfying conclusion there. I think what's missing for me is Skyrim's inevitable confrontation with itself. This is a land of reckless violence. It's a regression from Oblivion's Cyrodiil. Were it not for our intervention, a false prophecy could have destabilized an entire continent. We'll address that more in our third act, but it's part of why I find this DLC's conclusion somewhat unsatisfying. There are so many interesting threads that are introduced, so many compelling ideas that fit perfectly with the world we've inhabited, and yet we kind of ignore it all once Harkon is converted to a goopy paste. To start the hunt for the scrolls, I went to my favorite carriage driver. I didn't necessarily need to. For whatever reason, my brain has decided that it doesn't need to remember anything about long division, but it will forever retain the information that the Moth Priest carriage can be found near Dragonbridge. Still, I gave Bjorlam 171 gold because, frankly, the man needed it. Charging 20 coins for a ride to Riften is ludicrous.
God damn it, Thundaga. Silence has got resisted. He was so nasty.
The view from the titular Dragon Bridge is stunning, and it's impossible to not stop and admire it for a moment. Skyrim is a land of blood and beauty, violence and vistas. Playing Skyrim so soon after Starfield, I was struck by how uniquely captivating this land is. Nothing in Starfield could make me feel this way, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just my preference for fantasy, but I'd also personally rank this world above the ones we've gotten in Dragon Age or The Witcher. That's not to say those worlds aren't effective or beautiful in their own right, but something about Skyrim just feels different. The remains of the cart are easy to spot, turned on its side right off the road. The Imperial escort lies dead next to it, and a few paces ahead is the body of one of the vampires in the attack. Skyrim tells us to investigate the scene, once again trying to commit to a more hands-off questing experience. But like asking innkeepers or carriage drivers, it's mostly superficial. In this case, the quest arrow points right to the body of the dead vampire, and once you take the note off his corpse, the game will instruct you to read it. Across the bridge, closer to the cave, there's another stopped cart, this one's still upright. Reading a nearby journal reveals that it was a husband and wife, each laying dead on a different side of their wagon. I wanted to move the husband's body closer, so I started dragging it over when Serana noticed some vampires down the road, and in what I'm sure she thought was a very helpful contribution, raised the body of the wife to use as a meat shield. When the last vampire finally took her down, you could hear a lifeless as her body disintegrated into ash. After the fight, I moved the husband's body over to the tiny white pile of ash that was once his wife. Not exactly the dignified rest I had pictured for them, and hopefully soon someone takes Serana aside and teaches her some necromancy etiquette. With the enhanced armor crossbow, sharpshooting the vampires in the cave is a joy. Dexian the Moth Priest is still under the control of the vampires in the tomb, but a pair of crossbow bolts help sober him up.
I don't want to be around anymore.
But a pair of crossbow bolts helps sober him up. He's appreciative of our efforts and is happy to help us, and sets off back to Fort Dawnguard. Back at the fort, he reads Serana's Elder Scroll. He has a vision of Oriel's bow, and we get that line I mentioned earlier that applies to the Dragonborn-Serana relationship.
Darkness will mingle with light, and the night and the day will meet.
He says that we'll need to find 2 other Elder Scrolls to discover the bow's location and power, and it's this quest that is going to make up the rest of our second act. Serana thinks her mother has one of them, and remembers that she was going into hiding
Somewhere that my father would never search.
Castle Volkihar fits that description, and Serana says that her mother used to keep a garden, and that
She used to say that my father couldn't stand the place. Too peaceful.
so we're off to infiltrate the castle full of power-hungry, homicidal vampires, something that's surprisingly easier done than said. But before we begin our hunt for the Elder Scrolls, let's take a quick detour to the vampiric timeline to cover the last major difference in the main quest. Following his private conversation with the Dragonborn, Harkon gathers his court and gives them their marching orders.
Now that I have reclaimed one of my Elder Scrolls, we must find a moth to read it.
Go in
I
peace.
have spread false
Ashath
rumors of the discovery of an Elder Scroll in Skyrim.
I love that he calls it my Elder Scroll, even though it's an object of insane cosmic power, and he can't even read it.
I gotta blow my
Harkon's
nose, I'll be right back.
arrogance is just wonderfully conveyed here. We've also learned that he's lured the Moth Priest to Skyrim, whereas on the Dawnguard path, we just hear from Eastron that he's spotted an Imperial scholar of some kind on the road. It's likely we're seeing the fruits of Harkon's labor on that pathway without even knowing it. Tracking down the Moth Priest is identical except for the combatants in the cave. Instead of vampires, you're fighting the Dawnguard, but it's not anybody we'd recognize, which feels like such a missed opportunity to give players a moment of regret or a moment of gleeful, devious evil. Instead, they're just fodder for your spells or your claws. Rather than helping you willingly, Dexian needs to be turned into your thrall through your vampire seduction power. I wasn't sure how this worked, so when I tried to use it the first time, I missed, and you can only use it once a day. So I had to awkwardly wait 24 hours to try to seduce him again. Despite being your thrall, Dexian's lines are fairly similar to his lines on the Dawnguard path, both in the reading and down the line. Speaking to Harkon after Dexian reads the scroll reveals that he knows where we might start our search for both scrolls. Harkon says that he heard the dragon scroll was lost in the bowels of a Dwemer ruin, something that nobody else in Skyrim seems to have known except Septimus Sickness. It makes sense given Harkon's age and fixation on power, and it's another small detail that I really appreciate in this DLC. Back to our Dawnguard timeline, Serana and the Dragonborn find it surprisingly easy to sneak into the castle. Harkon's fixation on power and glory meant that he never really cared about something as peaceful as a garden, and sealed up the hall leading to it when his wife disappeared. That, combined with the lack of windows in the castle, for obvious reasons, makes sneaking in through the side entrance fairly trivial. I do want to note the delicious irony that it's the servant's entrance to the castle that ends up being Harkon's undoing. Of course, this guy who's fixating on killing the sun and imprisons and feeds on humans without a second thought will have overlooked this unsophisticated side entrance that the servants used. Serana has lines of dialogue about how strange it is to be back in the castle, and one of my favorite through lines with her character is how her upbringing has shaped her worldview. If you talk to her in the ruins here, she mentions how her parents almost never let her off the island, so she spent a lot of time exploring the castle. That leads to another one of my favorite details about her, which is her constant references to books and stories, implying that she did a lot of reading when she was younger because she was so bored and lonely. When we met her back in the crypt and she mentioned her father, she references the narrative cliché.
My father and I don't really get along. Saying it out loud makes it sound so common. Little girl who doesn't get along with her father. Read that story 100 times.
And then, before our search for the Moth Priest, she says,
The tale of the great moth priest hunt. That's something I'd want to read.
If you take her to Windhelm or Solitude, she'll also reference books.
They used to call Windhelm the City of Kings. In my books, anyway.
Warp drive
I read stories
active.
about the Solitude Windmill. I didn't expect it to be that big.
And it's here that we realize why that is. It's not just a romantic streak in her, it's a product of her upbringing. On the Dawnguard side, I think it's part of what motivates her turn to the Dawnguard, part of what motivates her to stop her father. She has this inherent sense of virtue and romanticism from an adolescence of literature. Just keep her away from Arconian maids. This mission has so much dialogue from Serana, and it's one of the few times across the main game or the DLCs that Skyrim seems actually interested in exploring its own characters. I like how it's done in the Moondial courtyard. Serana walks around exploring the Withered Garden.
I used to walk through here after evening meals. It was beautiful once.
It all sounds very idyllic until you remember what meals means for a vampire. At other points in this quest, Serana will have additional dialogue paths open, but only when you're in specific areas of the castle, so you have to stop in the middle of combat or exploration to interact with her. Since this is one of the only times in the entire game that a character has this much dialogue, I'm guessing that a lot of players miss this because we've never been conditioned to expect it. And it's a shame because it's some of the best character work Skyrim does. I think I prefer the BioWare approach for moments like this, where upon entering a room that's important to a companion, a dialogue launches automatically, and you can choose to have the conversation, or tell them something like, "There's no time for this," and get back to playing the game. That way the story moment is presented as an option, but players who genuinely don't care can quickly opt out and get back to the action. One of the conversations you can miss happens inside this tower, accessible through the Moondial passageway. Asking about the tower gives the Dragonborn the option to ask about Serana's family and whether she was close to them.
My father... No, not really. I did spend a lot of time with my mother, but she saw me more like a protege than a daughter.
She then asks about the Dragonborn's parents, a moment that will probably take players by surprise, because this is one of the few times Skyrim ever allows the player character to articulate some piece of their backstory. If you hit her with the old fantasy protagonist, "I never knew my parents, I grew up alone," she says,
I know how that feels. I mean, I know it isn't the same thing, but I was a pretty lonely child myself. Not as much. Let's just keep going.
Is this awkward and believable flirting in an Elder Scrolls game? I thought love was just telling people it was a fine day with them around. But in the tower of this dark and blood-soaked castle, Bethesda has written a genuine conversation between two people who have some level of affection towards each other. It's these moments that make the Serana Dragonborn relationship feel authentic and genuine, and could conceivably motivate a vampiric Dragonborn to go against Harkon if it means protecting Serana. For the Dawnguard Dragonborn, maybe we're finally putting words to the emotions felt back in Dim Hollow Crypt that made them want to take Serana home. I still wish we got more characterization there, or that the situation was handled in a way that made more sense, but I still like these conversations here in Act 2. Inside her mother's secret laboratory is an entrance to the Soul Cairn, the place where souls are sent if they're expended in soul trap sorceries. You gather the ingredients, and, before the ritual to open it, can check in with Serana about how she feels about locating her mother. Once again, she's surprised somebody asked, surprised that someone is treating her like a person rather than an asset. Then she adds her blood, and the portal to the Soul Cairn opens. But like most journeys to an underworld, there's a price that needs to be paid.